Welcome back, everybody. I got some shit to say about this series. 6 days ago, Peyton Pritchard on Joel Embiid being upgraded to available just before Game 4. Quote, we just changed maybe a small adjustment before the game, but we didn't talk about it at all in quote. 1 hour ago, Joe Mazzulla after Game 7 loss. What changed in the series is Joel Embiid came back and they're a completely different team. Teams have attempted 49 plus threes in a playoff game 37 times in NBA history. 3 of those times were the Celtics in this series. They were 1 and 2 in those games. And I'm glad I saw that because I just wanted to make sure I wasn't seeing things or coming up with shit in my head. When I got out there last video and said, hey, it looks like a lot of default setting 3-point shooting. Yeah, it was fucking historical default setting 3-point shooting. Yeah, bro, I can't even keep up with this playoffs. There's too much going on. Every direction, every team, every series is just chaotic. And this one involved Joel Embiid, who habitually injured, by the way, coming back from surgery like nothing happened. Because Joel, he always looks like he's in pain, all right? He falls, he plays through these games, he stumbles, he goes to the bench holding something, and then he comes back and puts the ball in the fucking basket. In a million years, I would not have thought Embiid was going to come back and play in this series and be any kind of good, which he was. Congratulations to him. That man, he's just amazing, bro. Whatever you or me have disliked about his play style over the years or whatever we said, when I was a kid, players who got injured like him, you didn't see them anymore. They went to the back of a bench. They became a second, third string guy. This is just whatever, man. He started his career in 2014 with a foot injury, and in 2026, he's still here fighting all types of shit to affect playoff games, and he's now in the second round with a chance to go to the conference finals for the first time in his career. And I read those quotes for a reason at the beginning. The fact that it took until Game 7 for us to make a serious change, that is gonna baffle me for the entire offseason. You remember when I made the video a couple of days ago and I said, hey, we can't just keep giving Maxey open shots. Dang, we only have one guy who can guard Embiid, and once he gets in foul trouble, it's cooked for the rest of the game. So we made a couple of changes that if I had had time to talk about this series more, I would have been telling y'all I was begging for. First of all, you noticed Vucevic was a DMP in this game. Vucevic needed to be a DMP a while ago, bro. I'm sorry. I've been saying on streams, every time we talk about this team and the subject of Luka Garza comes up, I have consistently said, Vooch plays like a vet who's already paid. Garza plays like somebody who's still playing for his life. He goes out there, him and Vooch have the same damn near exact skill set, except Garza doesn't post up, which we don't use post ups anyways, really. But Garza, not really good at defense. Vooch, not really good at defense. Garza makes 3 sometimes. Vooch makes 3 sometimes. Play the guy fighting for his life, not the one who's just kind of not been really good at all for you, and then goes and calls for the ball in the post when the Celtics don't play that way. But that wasn't even the bigger point of just not playing Vooch or just playing Garza over him. It was more so playing the other bodies that we have and that we've given chances to throughout this season, not just Baylor Shire, man, because here's what's gonna happen, right? And I'm already seeing it on Twitter. They're talking about the starting lineup he played and the fact that those guys didn't score, and that wasn't the point. The point was, and as Jaylen Brown says, I didn't read this quote, but he says he learned Tatum wasn't playing 45 minutes before the game. Cool, so without Tatum, things shift a little bit. That's 1. But 2, we finally figured out that using Kata on Embiid pretty much starts the foul trouble. And he's the only big who's even somewhat acceptable on him. So they didn't start Kata. They started Garza, and it wasn't in the hopes that he was going to do something amazing. It was really, in my eyes, in hopes that we weren't going to get stuck basically not being able to play Kata for super long stretches. And he had, I think, maybe his best game of the series. They gave Hugo Gonzalez some minutes. Hugo Gonzalez should have had minutes earlier in this series. Not that he was great or anything in here and hit shots, but that has been a hustle guy. That has been somebody we can just kind of plug into the rotation for lineups that we need to be different. Give him a chance to come in and try to make plays, because you put Vooch out there, if he doesn't hit his shots or he doesn't randomly hit a hook or whatever, he's not really making plays. And then we did what basically every NBA team has done for a long time now. When they have a player and they can't afford to have him in foul trouble, they normally put him somewhere else. They let him roam. Or what we just did was we didn't even start him. We brought him off the bench. But in certain lineups, what you notice, we had all the other guys guarding Embiid. The point of that wasn't to stop him. It wasn't to magically have Jaylen Brown shut him down or Derek White or any of that. It was just so we could at least give our one big a fighting chance. So you would see Jaylen Brown on the post and Embiid. You would see Derek White there, and then the help comes. This is what every team does when they can't afford to have a guy in foul trouble. So all those adjustments finally to this Joel Embiid team that we were playing after game 2, we waited until game 7 to do any of it. Up until game 7, as that 3-point stat that I just read off implies, we were just trying to win the game for fucking 3. Like I said, it just looked like a lot of default setting. Cool, all right, I'm open now, I'm gonna shoot. Now you're open, now you're gonna shoot. Just like 2025. I hated watching that 2025 team. So there's gonna be a lot said about the starting lineup Mazzulla came out with, but the larger point there, it really was centered around playing the Sixers as they were with Embiid. Because once they brought Embiid, that's why you saw my face when I read that quote. Once they brought Embiid into the series, they were the better team. They now had a star center, and then Paul George, who's a wing who can score, and then Maxey, who is a terrible matchup for us when we only have bigs that can play drop. And you got multiple support pieces in Edgecombe, in Oubre, and Drummond. I can't believe the coaching staff didn't realize that. We'd already dropped the game to them without Joel Embiid and didn't make any type of real substantial changes until game 7. There were wrinkles here and there. This was the first time it was like, okay, we need to actually try to switch things up, which I think when it got to 3-2 and they had to go back to Philly after that poor second half, that was probably the time. Because when the Celtics brought Vucevic to this team, I always said, I never thought that was a really great thing. I just said, oh, cool, this team has been doing really well, now has another option when they really only had 2 the whole year. And so they have a second guy who can maybe hit some shots sometimes. But his showing as a Celtic since he's been a Celtic, to me, did not justify playing him in this series as long as he was here. But honestly, I think everything lost a little bit of weight for me, at least, when I heard that Jason Tatum was even questionable for game 7 after game 6. They damn near didn't even let them get out of the locker room before it started being reported he might have had an injury. Well, that's because I think it happened during the game. And they were talking about tightness in his leg. Then I heard knee, and I said, okay, wrap this shit up, bro. Wrap this up, because yeah, while I was just watching that game, I wish we would have had Tatum. I hope everyone was watching that and realizes now what I just haven't really participated in over the years, the whole Jaylen Brown and Tatum conversation. I was just happy to have them both. I've never really tried to deep dive it. There's no reason. My team has them both. Cool. I just want them to play good hoop. But I hope everyone just watched that and realized the importance of Jason Tatum, okay? I've been to these games live and watched us be on the brink of elimination and watch Jason Tatum do things that they needed tonight. Especially with the game plan they were executing. That's one thing I just forgot to mention. The Celtics went straight up small one time, and they were actually getting some rebounds. They didn't play it big. Me and my friends were joking as we were watching the game. They're like, oh yeah, it's time for Vooch. It's time for Vooch. I said, no, it's time for Jordan Walsh. It's time to just go ahead and play small since we're guarding Embiid with smaller guys anyways. It is not time to bring Vooch in this game. So yeah, with every change that was made, Tatum was definitely needed. But again, what I was trying to say there is, once you're talking about a guy who I never even thought was coming back this season, having some complications with his legs, I said, bro, you know what? They could low-key just put us out tonight, because yeah, I don't want to be a first round out. I want to see what happens. I want to keep playing. I want to play New York again. But if Tatum gets another serious injury right now, we're just about to hit a year since he tore his Achilles, and he gets another serious injury overcompensating for that when he really just made historic timing coming back and playing this good. We're gonna cook next season, and then possibly the season after that. It's gonna get worse from here. We just survived what ended up being a gap year. Don't turn one problem into 2 or 3. And I just figured if it was important enough for him to sit a game 7, I did not see how we were going to move on to a second round and a third round. Tatum having complications this early, I didn't see a run. I said, cool, let's just see how far we can get without him now. And it wasn't very far. Congratulations, Philly. Seriously, I actually am happy for that team. I mean, I'm not happy to have seen Embiid get a win on us after all these years whatsoever. I would have liked to have him retired, never having beaten the Celtics, but it is cool to see a team persevere like this, who low-key has had a really, really bad situation contractually, be able to just wiggle around and figure it out, get a good rookie, get these guys healthy at the right time, and it's exciting to see what they can do moving forward. But what are the Celtics going to do moving forward? I'm about to look at this for the first time, because I didn't think I was going to be having a what's next for the Celtics conversation after the first round. That has never even approached my mind. All right, so the good old salary sheet. Bro, I've not even looked at our salary sheet. I didn't think there was going to be a reason. Well, you can kiss this goodbye. Vooch is 35 years old. He does not fit how the Celtics play when they're contending. and he's just not really that good. No further notes. Tatum locked to the end of the decade. Jaylen Brown, same thing. Derek White, pretty much the same thing. Came alive in those last 2 games, so that was nice. His shot, he was one of the better Celtics in Game 7. Was happy to see that. I've always loved D. White. I was wondering what happened to him, but given our situation, I am starting to wonder, because I was actually wondering about both of them last year when Tatum tore his Achilles, and I was wondering if they were just going to go ahead and not take the gamble of Jaylen Brown actually living up to this. I thought they were both gone low-key. Either way, look at this, bro. Everybody for 2027 except Vooch is pretty much on the table to come back. Almost the same team. They also have a mid-level exception, and if you remember watching any of my main channel videos, I've mentioned that Vucevic trade created a, I think, 27 million trade exception. So their lack of mobility is not as much as it seems on this good old sheet here, but I think there's going to need to be changes, because the problem is, if you remember how the Celtics were just good all these years, they had a better name here, they had a better name here, they had a, well, it was really just kind of like mostly 2 guys, 2 or 3, I don't know, memory's a little fuzzy. Basically what I'm saying is, you have to remember the conversations we were having when we came into this year. I was not doubting my own team by saying, oh, there's no way they can contend without Jason Tatum, who just torn his Achilles. It was pretty much, before we knew the guy was apparently fucking Superman, that was kind of common sense. And then the bigs that we had, you're not supposed to be able to survive with G League bigs, and you were just contending. This team did not look that good on paper. And as you saw, we brought it to a playoff series, and probably the biggest issue we had was related to the bigs. I really like how Kata has developed. I would bring him back, especially for this money. It's a $2 million team option. Yes, go ahead and just bring that back and have him, because he played really well. So for next season, bring him back, but A, he can't be our only big, and B, I would actually prefer if he wasn't the starting one. The thing about this roster as you see it is, when we were talking about how high we were on them and how they looked good and then they got Tatum back and oh, they can make a run, let's be real, nobody had a healthy Philadelphia team on their list. Nobody. This is before PG suspension. This is before knowing if Embiid, what he was going to look like at the end of the season. They were always an on-paper team, and they jumped off of it at the right time. But if this specific team catches multiple other rosters that don't have a superstar big that exploit their absolute worst weakness, along with a point guard that does the same, there are still a lot of teams they could have beaten. So you don't necessarily need to panic and throw the entire thing out, but you do have to say, okay, we are probably keeping the Jays, but for the support pieces around them, oh, I was getting there with the starting lineup conversation earlier. Yes, they started Ron Harper Jr. Again, that was based around A, not having Tatum, and B, not just putting Pritchard out there, because you put Pritchard, cool, he's good on offense, but especially without Tatum to help cover on defense and such, you've now given Philly, who another reason they were such a bad matchup for the Celtics while healthy is these are big players. Multiple guys can hit shots, multiple guys are athletic, multiple guys are tall, and you put Pritchard out there in a lineup like that, yeah, that was the justification around Mazzulla starting the lineup that he did. I see a lot of people already getting their takes off about it. That was why. However, yes, it would have been nice to not have to start Ron Harper Jr. for the first time, and I don't even know, that lineup hadn't even played together. So you do start to look at automatic defensive liability, pretty much a defensive liability, and then all your bigs being exploitable. You probably need to make a change. You don't know what the teams are going to look like next year, who you're going to have to beat in the first round or whatever. Who is expendable and available here? Derek White has been one of my favorite Celtics since he got here. He has helped this team so much. He is almost one of the only options they have to move. He's got some of the biggest money, and if you're looking at based off what just happened this season, because he was gradually losing his shot throughout the year anyways, and then the playoff performance, headed to 2027, you gotta be thinking about the fact the money is going up, and then that's a player option, and he's moving through his early 30s already, so to get anything of value, it's probably gonna have to involve him, and the rest of these guys don't really make that much, and the value kind of depends as you go down the roster. Then you come over and look at the picks, which 26 is not gonna be a good one. You also have yours next year, which I assume they are still trying to be good, but 28 is a swap with San Antonio, by the way. So for whatever reason they had to start to try to turn things around, they would not have this pick if it became a good one. It is protected for the first pick, so that's the only way Boston would keep it. Don't have anything for 29, and then you hit the 2030s where you begin to own. And of course, for your viewing pleasure, you can always take a look at these outgoings. It's not a horrible pick bank for a team that needs to make some moves. Granted, any type of moves that do anything at all are probably going to involve picks and players. And I'm really at a wait and see type position with this franchise, because again, I don't think anyone, including them, thought they were going out in the first round. Given that happened, it's good that you got Tatum back and saw that he's not a dud after the Achilles, because we didn't really know what a player near his age and at his level would look like after one, and he'd never reached 100% of himself, but for a guy who came back earlier than I think basically most players really ever have, it was acceptable. It's not really it's not like we're worried about his contract being spoiled right now, which is another reason I didn't want him to come back really after I heard he was having complications. But as I said with the Nuggets, I do believe that there's going to be a lot of moves this summer. There's going to be a lot of big names. We're still waiting to see how some situations work out. And so Boston's kind of on standby, because what do you do if some of these names become available? But I also took note of Jaylen Brown's demeanor being the #1 the whole year. He liked it. He liked it a lot. He was on streams campaigning for himself. He took pride in the fact that the team didn't falter. He really, I mean, you can even see it in the way he plays. This is just something he relishes in. So I'm not going to say it's a 0% chance it ends, but from where I'm sitting right now, both of these guys, what are they? JB is just going to be entering 30 and Tatum's in his late 20s. You don't, especially because them two are under contract, unless there is just a golden move out there. I mean, they get hit with something that just makes too much sense for how it fits with one of these, probably Tatum. And with the rest of the roster, you have two of the best forwards in the league who have won and regularly competed together under contract for a while. The team surprised this season. They played really well. It looked like for a second they could make a run, and they caught a horrible matchup. The worst matchup in the East they could have gotten. They got it through the play-in. So there do need to be some changes. There's going to be a lot of shakeups in the league over summer, so you just kind of see what happens there, but you don't need to overreact. As to what the changes will be, we're gonna have to see. For a season grade, I'd give this an A. I'm a guy who was watching this team expecting them to maybe trade a couple of those guys in the offseason, but regardless, I had them as a play-in team this year. They were the 2nd seed with a chance to be the 1st. The star came back because he thought they could make a run. Maybe I'll say A-, because in a season where they didn't expect to compete, or a lot of people didn't expect them to compete, you do look back now and wonder about that Anthony Simons trade. Granted, maybe they could have used a little bit more offense here, but again, the trade exception that was created, the fact that we were not going to extend Simons and have him be a part of this thing with the Jays, and now you got some money coming off the books. I don't think that was really the terrible move that some people are already trying to make it out to be. I've already seen a tweet about how you traded Simons and then the guy you traded him for was a DMP. Yeah, well, he was always just kind of if he does something good, he does something good piece. That's what Vooch was. It had to do with money as well. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you thought about the Celtics 2026 season in the comment section below, while hitting the like button, subscribing, and hitting the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.